is going on, my friends, my YouTube friends, Patreon friends? How we all doing? What are we jumping into, man? We got MUSE, Hysteria at Rock AM or AM, right? Ring 2010. That was the year I graduated. Okay, so I was gonna share this story with my friend Ams, who requested this from the Patreon, and I appreciate this. I appreciate you always knowing that I want to look at a band. But so when I was growing up, when I was listening to music, I was like I had such I can't tell you how like almost addicted I was to listening to the Hysteria album from Def Leppard. Like it was bad, bro. It was like probably like almost like an illness. I'm not kidding. It was so bad. But anyway, when YouTube was like kind of getting popular and like online search and all that, I would look up Hysteria and this song would come up all the time and I'd be like, "Oh my god, there's a new live one that I haven't seen before." And I would click on it and it'd be this. So for a long time, I refused to listen to this. And I honestly don't know if to this day if I've heard this song. I've heard other Muse songs and I like a few of them. I just don't know if I've heard this one. So my friends, I'm excited to get into this one. I'm going to pull this up for y'all. While I'm doing that, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Give me that thumbs up if you like these kind of reactions, these kind of breakdowns. Got my Patreon link in the description box if you want to send me your links as well or help support the dream, help support the cause. I've got a background in this live stuff, so I like breaking down all this stuff. I was like a front of house mixer. I always do that. I was the soundboard guy, right? So, but anyways, my friends, let's do this. Let's watch this. Look at all the people, these festivals. Cool. So this is interesting. So he's just dead muting these strings. He's just not letting them do anything, and then he's just basically rattling these pickups. So there's 3 on here, I think, unless the bridge pickup is like removed and it's just custom here. But like there's just magnets in these different styles and different ways of creating magnets so that when the string vibrates, it picks it up, right? So he's just causing chaos for these pickups right now, right? And the amp will have all the sounds, the processing, probably reverbs, delays, all that stuff, right? But he's just causing chaos for the guitar right now. It's neat. It's neat. There's one thing I love about guitar is just noise. Just noise. You can hear that his hand's high on the fretboard. Let's turn it up. The sus4 is nice. Do do do. Sus4. That's like my favorite kind of chord. Favorite kind of cadence. Okay, this is such a. Oh my God, where am I? This is such a good example for me to talk about what bass guitar does in recordings. Oh my God, I love this. Hold on, it's not loud enough. It's. I don't know if it's gonna be loud enough. Sorry, Danielle. Sorry, kids. Listen to this bass. Left-handed drummer too. Okay, so let's talk about the bass because this is getting nuts. This is getting out of hand. So the bass is made up of more than just one signal, right? Right. So what I mean by that is when you play bass, it starts at the origin, which is the bass, and then you have a cable that goes out into probably a guitar amp or like a bass amp of sorts, right? So that's like step 2, and then from there it gets distributed on stage to either like your pedals. If you have like, if maybe it might be his distortion pedal, might be a synth playing along with them, but I'm thinking it was the bass distortion. There's a couple ways you can achieve that too, but anyways, so there's a pedal that would interrupt that, make it dirty, right? And so typically you run a bass into what's called a direct box. So you can plug either the bass into the direct box and then go like line out basically a passive into the amp, and then the amp becomes like a monitor, and then the sound tech just gets like a mic cord feed. It can mix it all from there. And in modern day music, you can split up one So one bass signal, you could like multiply, you could duplicate it 2-3 times, right? So one of them would just be bass. It would just sound like the bass, whatever the bass player wants it to sound like. The other one will be the distortion. So now the sound engineer, the recording engineer can balance the two. So you still get like all that punchy and all the like weight that a bass would have. But you can mix in that distortion just so it's just there, just to make it cut, just make it sound like a party, right? That whole thing. But then there's going to be a whole another chain, and I won't get too far into this, of like compressors and different distortion units that are emulating what we used to get from records and LPs and stuff like that. And if I were to be a betting person, it's probably a distressor. I think it's ELA makes them. I'll put a picture up. I use one too. And they just have like a really warm, saturated, natural distortion to it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the channels as well. And I saw that hands-on from the Bruno Mars Sound Tech when I was at the 2 Bruno Mars shows I went to. And it's such an aggressive way of handling bass, but you need it. You need it because the low frequencies versus the high frequencies are going to cut and they're going to punch and they're going to reproduce differently. So you need tools, you need processing to make them all sound the same. So you can still get dynamic. You can still feel when he's playing quietly or when he's playing hard, but you still like it creates the same volume all the time, right? So that the audience doesn't lose it. It still has the weight to carry through, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways. A lot of rambling. Let's do this. Oh my goodness, man! Like his vocal, whatever his name is, man. This lead singer, I like his live vocal better than his recorded vocal. Guaranteed. There's a couple cool things that happen just to be a nerd. The first one is that you can really hear the proximity when he leaves the microphone when he goes up for the first kind of like the louder note, do 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 do, whatever the pitch is, right? He like leaves it and then he comes back to it. And the second one, it's very present. You could hear like the graphic change, the sonic change, everything, right? Check this out. See how like much the vocal changes when he goes up for the May and he pulls away from the microphone? That's the proximity effect of the mic, right? And like different ones will handle that and address that differently, but it's cool to hear that like it's actually happening, right? Like it's a real vocal take. It's real. The mic's on, right? Sounds great. Oh man, that drum kit has so much weight to it too. Like the snare drum's really like thin and like brittle sounding, but it's got so much. It's so present. It's so pressed forward. It's got this like march to it. You know what I mean? And like I wouldn't be surprised if you even had like a wallet or something to like dampen it down, just to like give it more of like a thud to it. Like it's still got the brittle smack like a snare drum, but it's like it's got like a weight to it, right? But the kick drum. Ooh, the kick drum. Same kind of story as like the bass, right? You'll do multiple things with the kick drum to get that kind of a tone because everyone thinks that a kick drum is just low, and it's not. It's not. It's got a lot of brilliance to it. It's got a lot of like punch to it. You're literally with like a lot of weight. You're pressing a beater into the beater head, and it's got this like to it. You know what I mean? And you need to recreate that so it like beats people in the chest, right? And so you can do like a microphone inside the kick drum, microphone outside the kick drum. There's all kinds of stuff you can do where you're basically doing the same thing you're doing with the bass, where you're separating different parts of the frequencies and pressing them forward so it's consistent all the time, right? So you can still get like a soft feel to the kick drum, but it can still beat the shit out of the stadium consistently the whole time, right? And like this is such a good example of that because you can hear, for those of y'all that got some like speakers, some headphones on, it's got like this really bright, like this tick, tick, tick every time he beats into that kick drum, and it just gives this march, and it's locked in with this bass player too, man. What a, like, as far as trios go, we consider this a trio. If there was just like a singer with no guitar and then like the one guitar, the one bass, and the drummer, we call that a trio too, even though it's kind of a 4-piece. Call it a trio with a singer. For the trio, you got to be creative in coming up with like ways to fill the band members you don't have on stage. You know what I mean? Because like you kind of expect, just how records are, you kind of expect like 5 or 6 people when it comes to just sound and stuff. So having like this big of a drum kit playing away, kick drums on every beat, every square beat, right? Instead of kick, snare, and this bass player just riffing away like this, like there's a lot of weight that they're reproducing. The Warning does a good job of this too, for like modern rock, right? But anyway. Oh, he's playing guitar still too. I didn't even notice that. So this guitar must sustain like crazy, like crazy. It's probably why he picked it, because he wasn't picking or anything. He was just letting the notes ring out, whatever the riff was, and then that that stuff. But like none of my guitars, nothing I own in this house would sustain like that. Like I could use compressor pedals; they're the same kind of ideas. It just, if there's sound, it tries to bring the sound up. So like obviously that would create sustain. So like as long as the guitar is still making noise, it's going to try to keep the sound of it at a constant volume. So then like when you play the note and you can just hold it and let it ring out forever. There's other things too. There's things called like EVOs or EBOs where like it would keep the string vibrating. You could do all kinds of harmonics and stuff, back to the Def Leppard thing. But that was really cool. I didn't notice that was what was happening. And I bet you the guitar has got a ton of sustain to it. It's a cool looking guitar. I don't know what it is though. Looks metal. Wow, look at this drum kit. Look at this whole setup. Wow. So he's got this is like a kick drum. This is like a concert kick drum turning on its side. And it's crazy. They probably have this is a custom built stand to hold it off the floor too. He's got, because he's left-handed, so that'll be on his snare drum side. This is a 16-inch floor tom. I think it was a 14-inch on this side. What a kit. This is really neat, man. This is really, really cool. Look at all these people. Nice. Y'all know I love some AC/DC. Come on, man. Like, look at this. Look at this guitar. Look at this. Of course I love me some AC/DC, my friends. If I remembered how this riff went, I'd play along. Get out of my way. Anyways, this is dope. This is checking all my boxes. Listen to that kick drum. Ah, come on. I wanted to sing along. That was dope. That guitar sounded great. Sounded like a metal guitar. Sounded like a great metal guitar. I thought it was a really cool performance. Had me shook, man. Had me shook. I didn't know that that's how Hysteria sounded. And I don't know if the record sounds like that, but I sure as hell like the live one. What a, back to my Def Leppard thing. What a different vibe, but what a bop. What a bop. I would listen to this more in today's life than I would listen to Def Leppard's Hysteria. But I dug it, man. I dug it. I thought like the approach to the 3-piece is always interesting. I thought they did a really good job of it. Didn't look like they had much for guitar amps on stage. It's probably a lot of processing. Looked like they just had like music stands up and just filler on stage. Drum kit was cool. Left-handed drummers always freak me out. There's just something magical looking about it. It just looks wild. The big kick drum on this side and its side was neat. I've heard about people having custom stands for that, but I've never actually seen it. But I thought it was a great performance. I thought it was a really cool performance. Crazy crowd. Rock Am, man. Or the Rock Am or Rock Am Ring, whatever. They're always nuts. But my friends, I appreciate the request. Hope you all enjoyed this kind of a breakdown of me rambling as much as I did. That was a good one. That was a long one. My friends, see everyone again soon.